Yeah. This is the steam train. They built this place a few short years ago. They put a steam train here. This used to all be just grass. And a few years ago, they put this steam train here, the R.A. Long Railway. It's a logging railway. They have one in Cathlamet that I did a video on in the late summer, early fall. This is the Shay Pavilion. This is pretty new, as you can see. The Long Bell Shay number 5. There's one, as I said, in Cathlamet that I took a video of. And this is the number 5. Delivered in 1924. The historic locomotive weighed in at a hefty 105,100 pounds. Shay Locomotive Prick Facts. Built in 1923 by Lima Locomotive Works, incorporated in Lima, Ohio. Shop number 3249. For the Security Logging Company Incarnation, formerly Tolt, Washington. Class B locomotive, 60 tons, 2 trucks, 8 drivers, 3 cylinders, 11 feet in diameter, 12 strokes, gear ratio 2 to 211, wheel diameter 32 inches, standard gauge, boiler EWT 44.375 inch diameter, fuel oil 950 gallon tank, converted to wood in 1942, water capacity 2,000 tons, a gift to the City of Longview. The Long Bell Lumber Company Shay number 5 was offered to the City of Longview as a symbolic gift in 1956. The locomotive had arrived in Longview in 1955 for the LP&N Railway to cosmetically restore. In 1998, Longview businessmen John Chilson and Jeff Wilson launched a 16-year overhaul of the Shay. The locomotive finally returned to the Longview Library grounds in 2013. A different kind of locomotive. One unique feature of Shay locomotives is the placement of the boiler on the frame to accommodate the cylinders and drive lines located on the right side, engineer's side. The boiler was mounted off-center to provide proper weight and balance for efficient hauling. Although much more powerful for hauling than rod-driven engines, the Shay's top speed was 16 miles per hour. What it lacked in speed, the engine made up for in power, traction effort of 22,500 pounds, and its ability to pull loads of logs up 12% grades. Shays were gear-driven machines, perfectly suited for traversing mountains and towns, where traditional locomotives could not be used efficiently. Shay goes on permanent display. Number 5 worked for Long Bell Lumber Company until it was retired in 1952. Most of the Long Bell Shays were sold for scrap metal, but number 5 was given to the City of Longview by Long Bell. It was placed facing west towards Oak Point, the site of the first established logging operation in Cowlitz County. The engine was turned 180 degrees when brought back in October 2013, so the headlight could alert motorists of its return, and the engine's more interesting side features 3 cylinders could be seen more easily. As you can see, this is downtown Longview area. This is the library park. And nearly a half a century of neglect begins to take its toll. The Shay was displayed in Longview, unprotected from the elements and vandals for more than 40 years. The resulting neglect began to add up quickly. Rust had eaten through the boiler, insulation was falling out, the boiler plate was loose, and the tender was full of holes. In addition, the bell had been filled with cement to keep kids from ringing it day and night, and the engineer's seat was missing. Plans were made to move the engine to Chehalis for restoration and operation as a tour attraction. Instead, after John Chilson documented its history and it was added to the Longview Historic Register, the Shay was moved in 1998 to the Port of Longview to finally begin dismantling and repair work. Restoration work begins in earnest. More than 1,400 parts were removed, photographed, and cataloged. Once complete, the locomotive was moved to John and Mary Chilson's home for rebuilding. The volunteers worked tirelessly on evenings and weekends. Ray Ron Company of Longview reproduced the tender, and volunteers chipped the cement out of the bell. removed the lead-based paint and asbestos, returned the engineer's seat, and refurbished the cab exterior with 35 gallons of black epoxy paint. The 6,000 hours of volunteer time have been valued at $450,000. 1956 log of Long Bell Shay dedication text. When the locomotive was first displayed, Long Bell Lumber Company's industry periodical, The Log of Long Bell, proclaimed, "This locomotive was presented on June 22nd to the City of Longview by J.D. Leland, President, as a constant reminder to its citizens, both the present and the future generations, of the roots which were behind the founding of Longview, the lumber industry." The Shay followed the horses in auction, first used for skidding logs to the waterways, and prior to the present logging tractor and truck. The locomotive in itself is not particularly famous. It is, however, typical of the type of engine which was well adapted during the era of railroad logging to the mountainous terrain and the long hauls over steep and crooked tracks in the forested lands of Oregon and Washington. So, I've read all that. And now we'll tour the Long Bell Shay number 5 restored engine. I guess sometimes you can tour them, because there's like steps up here, but not today. Or I don't know what the steps are for, but you can access the cab. R.A. Long timber tracks and towns, one of America's most successful lumbermen in the 20th century, along with his lieutenants. Lumber Baron. R.A. Long ran Long Bell Lumber Company from its headquarters in Kansas City, Missouri, controlling each stage of the business from force to trains, mills, and stores. Long used a private rail car for personal trips and travels to his Long Bell mills and retail store operations and other business meetings across the country. Building an empire, between 1875 and 1920, R.A. Long transformed his Long Bell Company from a single retail store in Columbus, Kansas, into the nation's -- lumber business. The Long Bell empire included 110 retail stores and 23 mills, logging well over 250,000 acres of forest in the Mississippi Delta, the Ozarks, and Northern California. The 16-story R.A. Long building opened in 1906 and was Kansas City's first skyscraper. Company towns. In 1905, Long found a partial solution to his problems with workers' housing settlements. Long Bell bought Weed, California, a company town owned by Abner Weed, whose lumber company provided housing and social services to its workers' families and even built a community fire station. A dozen years later, Long Bell acquired another company town, Quitman, Mississippi, along with some new railway technology, a Shay. Bringing Shays aboard. Long Bell first acquired Shay locomotives in a 1917 multi-million-dollar lumber deal for the Mississippi Eastern Railway, headquartered in Quitman. Long Bell owned and operated a department store and municipal electric lighting system for city residents there. Louisiana and Pacific Railway. Formed by Long Bell in 1904, the company consolidated smaller railroads, including Long Bell's Lake Charles and Northern subsidiary. Ransackle settlements that workers built near his Louisiana mills and bitter labor disputes there offended R.A. Long's sense of order and propriety. Virgin timber of Castle Rock. The area's huge trees stunned Long Bell officials. Discovered by timber scout R.F. Ryder, virgin timber on the border of Lewis and Cowlitz counties, known as Weyerhaeuser's 10-3 tract, filled the company's need for more timber as the nation recovered from World War I and timber supplies in the South were depleted. R.A. Long bought the timber. The lumbermen built railroads, docks, and world-class mills, but his crowning achievement was to be Longview, a beautifully planned city brimming with gifts from his personal coffers, libraries, schools, churches, parks, and boulevards, all populated by industrial workers and their families from his mills and others. And that's what this city is. It is a It is a lumber town founded by R.A. Long, hence the name Longview. So that's a little history of this town. It is now like 100 years old. I think last year was the 100th anniversary. It's a year or two ago, I think. They had a celebration here. Longview, the Queen City of Lumber, a city beautiful envisioned by America's top lumbermen. This is what it looked like back then in the 1930s and 40s. Abundant timber triggered new city. After an extensive scouting trip from California to the Olympic Peninsula, Long Bell's timber cruiser RF Ryder convinced Long Bell that Warehouse's rugged 10-3 tract provided the best value for the company. The company's 1919 purchase triggered Chief Engineer Wesley Vandercook to search for a suitable location to construct the company's mills and towns. Long Bell disliked ramshackle towns. R.A. Long and his board of directors wanted a pleasant, well-planned modern city. This was a contrast to what Vandercook discovered throughout the Pacific Northwest. Rough mill towns catering to single male workers, usually characterized by drinking, debauchery, and more often than not, labor unrest. Company town idea nixed too. Long Bell's new city was expected to become a mecca for a wide range of forest industries, not just a single company. A major nationwide advertising campaign trumpeted its attributes of focus of families with schools, churches, parks, and stores, access to natural resources and modern transportation, and ample space for mills and other facilities. Long Bell accepted Vandercook's preferred choice. He convinced Long Bell's president R.A. Long to purchase the marshy land at the confluence of the Columbia and College Rivers. Not only was there plenty of land for mills and housing, close to lush, old-growth forest, but also the Columbia provided easy access for ocean-going ships, and the Northern Pacific Railway was close. Kessler and Nichols spearhead the city planning. Once the land was secured, R.A. Long sought the advice of Kansas City developer J.C. Nichols and urban planner George Kessler on how the city should be designed. They recommended the principles of the City Beautiful movement with its calls for parks, tree-lined streets, and broad vistas and landscape boulevards. Long underwrote the extra costs of these features with personal funds. Longview Fiber was formed to use wood waste, seeking to make efficient use of massive quantities of sawdust and the other byproducts created by the Long Bell mills. The Longview Fiber Company was formed by Monroe Wertheimer and Harry Woolenberg. Their paper mill opened in 1927. As Long Bell operations dwindled, Longview Fiber acquired forest land for its own use. Now opened by Capstone Paper and Packaging, the mill still produced more than 1 million tons of product annually. Weyerhaeuser joined Long Bell with massive mill. By 1930, Longview was home to two of the world's largest lumber mill operations, Long Bell and Weyerhaeuser. By developing a 700-acre lumber and paper complex, Weyerhaeuser, joined by several smaller forest sector companies, would help to realize Long Bell's vision of clean, well-constructed streets and boulevards, infrastructure which complemented beautiful public buildings and extensive parks, and provided a superb living environment for employees. The city was truly established as the Queen City of Lumber. Port of Longview acquired Long Bell Mill site. With its original timber holdings virtually harvested, Long Bell was sold to International Paper in 1956. Longview operations were steadily reduced until IP closed its Long Bell Cabinet Division in 1979. Only the original White House administration building remained. The Port of Longview completed purchase of the entire site in 1999 and continues its redevelopment, which is on the port, which is down there towards the bridge. I won't be going there today, but there you got a history of Longview and R.A. Long, which the city is named. A lot of streets are named after the original city planners.